All right, I still feel compelled to get this figured out. I'm back to the analog. I'm still working on the analogs, but I wanted to update something, and it's something that I've run into before, and it showed up in the videos. There's a backwards numbering part somewhere. I just want to talk about that. And okay, quickly, just a very technical one here. Here's the analogs that I'm talking about, the Eden, all of this number group right here, and then the first sin group, which is going to grow. This is not a complete set. I know there's something in the background that is very old that I have to analyze over and over again to try and figure out what it is. But I will tell you as we go through here that these 22 numbers, which we're going to find in Genesis and analog farms, are repeated. Those 22 numbers over 6,052 times in the Bible. They're actually doing something here that is creating a numbering grid pattern that is super hard to see. I'll just say that for now. But let's go see how we're gathering these up to begin with. Let me get over to, actually, let me briefly restate that 3-7 begins right here where 7 is repeated 3 times, and it's on verse 3 of the second chapter. Take the 2 creation stories at that point and put them side by side, and we've got 7, 3, and naked and unashamed in the Garden of Eden, one flesh. Man and his wife were naked, unashamed. Those are all 3 the same point. And what those represent is a human life cycle, life starting point. If you follow the template correctly, father and mother is what we're leaving behind, but the man and his wife, naked and ashamed, Adam and Eve, that is each human being, the conscious and the inner self. And this is a time in life when we're brand new. We're naked and unashamed. We are not covered by life experiences. And we're going to repeat this over and over again, but we don't want it to be very visible. So we're going to use a numbering system to hide it deeper. And as we move along, we're going to see more numbers being gathered up like this. Do you see the 7-fold and the 7-fold right there? That's where the code is beginning. If Cain be avenged 7-fold, truly Lamech 70 and 7-fold. That's a weird thing. What does that even mean? It doesn't even seem like it fits the story. What it is a 7 and a 7 surrounding a 70. It's teaching us how to gather numbers up. So we're going to grab that 3, that's 7, and that's 70, and we're going to put them on our list. As we get down in here to the Adam analog farm, we run into really goofy things. 130, 800, 930, 100, 5, 800, 7. Now there are iterations like the ESV where they've taken these and just completely obliterated it. They've just put them all as compound numbers when this is actually code. That's why it needs to look like this. And it doesn't say 930 years or a 930. It's a 900 and a 30. That is not a compound number. It looks like it. But if we don't treat it like a compound number, why wouldn't we? What we're doing is using 7s to start gathering up other numbers. Well, that's a 900 and a 30. That's not right, is it? Let's go over here and take a look at something. 900 in Genesis is repeated 7 times. So the 900 is acting like a 7, and it's going to gather up the 30. Every time you see a 900, treat it like it's a 7. Grab the 12. 900, grab the 5. 900, grab the 10. 900, grab the 60 and grab the 2. 900, grab the 60 and grab the 9. All of these are for a reason. And there's a method to the madness. Again, these numbers are going to show up thousands of times in the Bible, but there's even something deeper going on that you can't even see there. I'm going to skip all of this because it's just gathering up more. You see the 17th right there? 17th is said twice in Genesis, but we've got it appearing with a 600 and a Noah and a second. All of those are good numbers. So the 17th is being gathered up by associating with 3 other. Each one of them is repeated. Yeah, it gets deep. Okay. So as we get down here, there's something that happens in chapter 11 in an analog farm where there's some weird things happening. This I call the Shem analog farm. These are the generations of Shem. But look at there's something happening here. There's actually 3 times in this analog farm where things are backwards. And our Faxad lived 5 and 30 years, not 30 and 5. We've got someone living 30 here, 403, but then we got another backwards again, 4 and 30. We got 430, 30, 209. We never write numbers down like that. That's not a 34. That's a 4, and that's a 30. That's what that really is. And then, if that's the case, it's telling us treat the rest of them the same way. You're not going to write 430 down. It would have to be a 34. But you don't add or take away. There's something here. The code is there. And these backwards ones are telling us, are hinting to me, that that's what we do. We do not treat them as a compound number, that we treat them as separate numbers. We get all the way down into the final analog farm. How do we use a 7 to collect things up there? That's going to be, here it is right here. As we get into the analog farm, what you're going to see is something different. Do you see righteous? 1. What we're looking for is word repeats. This is the code. Will you destroy righteous with the wicked? What if there's 50 righteous within the city? Will you spare it for the place for 50 righteous? Why would you, far be it from you to slay the righteous with the wicked, that the righteous should be, and then the 50 righteous? Well, it should almost sound like a Dr. Seuss thing here as you're reading through it. Why do they keep saying that? Would you destroy it for 50 righteous? Not for the sake of 50 righteous. No, I will not. I will not destroy it, Abraham. Sam, I am, and Abraham. Okay, so what we see, though, is righteous is said 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right there. That's how we get the clue. And how they're hiding it in there. And by looking at the repeats, and then we also see the 50, 50, 50, 50. 50 is repeated 4 times. 5, 5, 5 is repeated 3 times. So we have our numbers looking at each other again. We got a 5 that's already been selected, 3 that's already been selected. And if we keep doing this, we're teaching somebody that has this memorized, hey, these are your clues. We don't have them memorized. We think we know these. We don't. Okay, so our 5 is said 3 times, 40 said 3 times, 30 said twice, 20 said twice, 10 said twice. And what are all these numbers up here in these other farms? 7, 12, 15, 5. There's our 10, 30, 5, 5. You see that the repeats are coming up, and that's why I, at some point, go, those numbers continue to repeat. What happens if I just treat them this way and gather them up into one pile and see what happens, play with it, figure it out, because there's something that's just repeating consistently in there. And I break them out into something like this, where I've got them out just as the numbers by themselves, without the text. And what I look at down here as I get down in here is a pretty tight grid pattern. As I go through and analyze it, 30, 890 are each repeated 7 times. So every time one of those appears, it's also linking up as well, the 30 is a good number. 800s and 900s don't appear anywhere else. This is the only place. They're being used as code. People don't live that long. 800, 5, and 60 are said 5 times. 7 and 2 are repeated 4 times. 90 and 80 are repeated 3 times. 300, 500, 770 are each repeated twice. And then 15, 40, 10, 12, 9, 50, 1 time each. 20 numbers total. Okay, so that's where the numbers are all gathered. I don't know if that makes sense to people. Probably not. You have to work at it yourself to get it all figured out. And then we end up with this big pile of numbers right here that then we go look at and can do other things with. I won't get into that. I've done videos on that before, but I just wanted to do that and show how that actually works. And if you go to, like here, I have some excerpts from the ESV. Look what they've done. Here's a 16 and a 16. This 16 is from the ESV, the first one, and the second one is from the King James Version. When Eber had lived 34 years, he fathered Peleg, and they just got a 3 and a 4 there. He lived 34 years and had a Peleg. King James Version, he lived 4 and 30 years and begat Peleg. Those are going to sound so different if you're trying to analyze them. If not, you just add them up and go, okay, it's just there 34 years. And this guy was 900 and so-and-so, and he was 403. And you just take them at face value and go add them up, and that's it. You don't look at them and go, damn, there's something weird there. There's something that's supposed to get my attention. They totally destroy that. The ESV, it's not there. All of the numbers have to look like this: 403, 403, 430, 209, 207. 9 and 20. Look, there's another backwards one. Or actually, I identified that on the other page. Anyway, they need to look like that and not like this up here. 29, 200, 30, 207. This is just, this It doesn't destroy what is in the Bible, but it certainly makes it. I mean, if you could look at that and say, you know what, that right there is a 200 and a 7. It's not a 207. That's a 200. This is a 20 and a 9. This is a 100 and a 10 and a 9. If you know that, you wouldn't have to have it like this. But this right here helps steer you that way. That was actually not 110 and 9. It was 119. See, it's better off to have it this way. It tells you. There's no doubt in it that that's a 119 up here. You don't know if it's a 110, 9 or 119. So, yeah, okay. Does that make sense? It's not going to make sense unless you're really deep into it and you're searching along. That's what we're looking for right there. Then what happens when we get into the Bible? We find those numbers all over the place. We find, what did we have here? We've got, as we start going through the sequences of the myth, or the human life sequences, Adam and Eve starts at chapter 3. The 3-7 grid starts there. We're going to see a micro and a macro numbering system going on. There's Abram and Sarai. Look, it's on chapter 12. 12 is a stage along the way. Abram's name is repeated 75 times, which is a combination of 70 and 5, and Sarai's is repeated 17 times, which was gathered up in the flood story as an analog there, repeated twice there, surrounded by other numbers. We get to Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac is 40 years old. Rebekah's 30. 40 and 30. There we have it. Isaac's name is also repeated exactly 80 times in Genesis. And it's on where? Chapter 20, verse 20 is where that calling happens. When we get outside of Genesis, we see it continue. Outside of Genesis, we're going to see it continue on in things like in the book of Job. Starts right off with 7 sons and 3 daughters. At Adam and Eve, male-female component, 7 and 3. Male and female component, 7 and 3. There's something very deep that you would have to understand conceptually in your own mind that nobody teaches you. Nobody teaches you this stuff.